Four-way tie, Matt, in the NFC West with the 49ers beating the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. We will recap that one, our takeaways from primetime, the rest of week 4. Javonte Williams, unfortunate news on his knee injury, torn ACL out for the season. How do the Broncos and your fantasy teams figure out the rest of their season now at the running back position? All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson here with you as always. Thanks for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt, we've got to get into this Monday Night Football matchup, which was really a powerhouse performance from the 49ers defense. And I thought that might be the case coming in, but I was even more impressed with that unit for the 49ers. It was the best of this is something you like to say when you break down a game and we're looking at, one matchup, one opponent against another, is that, what's the best unit of the four? And the 49ers defense, I think on Monday Night Football was clearly the best unit of the four offenses and defenses on the field in primetime.
I 100% agree. I think it's a very interesting group right now. And I just started this morning, yesterday too. I always do a big Steelers breakdown against their opponent, and I'm digging into the Bills. And the Bills are at the top of like every defensive category, but they're behind the Niners in like every one. Like the Niners are just above them, or I didn't realize how highly ranked after 4 weeks this defense was. Of course, I knew it was good, but you start digging into critical stats, it's like, boy, the Niners are one there too. They're one in this one too, And I'm starting with the Rams. I think their O-line's a disaster, and it could be their kryptonite for the year. But this is also a bad matchup as you can get. Led by Bosa, but as you know better than anybody, there isn't a team in the league that puts more resources into their defensive front than the Niners. The depth and high draft pick after high draft pick, and that's really showing up, and it's a terrible matchup for the Rams. And I can't just blame O-line for Rams. It seems like more is missing there. Who's the back? Why doesn't Allen Robinson ever do anything? Is Stafford a little bit banged up? Are there some holes on defense? I wonder if, and it's all worth it because they won the Super Bowl last year, but is their team model going to start to crumble here?
Yeah, it's sort of all of those things, I think, Matt, that you mentioned there. The offensive line is bad, and that's the beginning of everything because now the run game is poor. And your quarterback is protected worse, which is going to affect everything on offense. And the 49ers have seen a little bit of that this year as well. But, a Rams offense still holding them to 3 field goals, I think was a huge coup for the 49ers defense. And Matthew Stafford then at the end trying to play hero ball, throwing multiple balls to the 49ers defense, one for a pick 6, a couple more that could have been intercepted that hit Fred Warner and Tashawn Gibson in the hands. And that's what's scary about the 49ers defense, I think, is that all 3 levels right now are playing really well. And then you get even extra than you expected probably out of Talanoa Hufanga, who's just instinctively and reactionary ahead, like 2 steps ahead of everybody. And he might not be the most athletic player, but man, especially when he's in the box and coming downhill and even in coverage is what I was worried about this year, and seeing him play at this level, borderline star level right now for Hufanga.
It's remarkable.
And I didn't expect it. It's crazy how well he was playing on the backside. And I think the most underrated unit maybe in the NFL is the 49ers starting cornerbacks, just because both guys, and how rare is this for the 49ers to roll into a season with 2 undrafted cornerbacks and to feel good about it? And one of them was obviously a high-end free agent. The 49ers spent some money on Charvarius Ward, and he's been awesome. And then Emmanuel Mosley is just sort of anonymous on the other side, and he's been really good throughout his career. Those guys are playing at a high level. The safeties are playing well. They've got one of the best linebacking groups in the league. So I don't know how you attack this 49ers defense right now. They don't have to bring extra players to bring pressure on your quarterback.
Yeah, and they may have found a guy in Lenore, as you're well aware. Warner's a total star. Greenlaw's a very good player. guys like, Waiver, I always butcher his name, but I mean, they just have so many guys, and sprinkle in the rookie, Drake and those guys as well. It's a really good unit. And not only do the Rams lack talent up front, but they struggled with twists and stunts and picking things up in games. They've had so many people there. So they're losing one-on-one matchups to better players, and they're having mental busts. Big problem there. One thing I took away, which of course was a Shanahan trait, but was very evident in this game when the Niners had the ball, were big plays, explosives. Wilson goes untouched for a 32-yard gain. Juszczyk had a nice big gain there. Ayuk did, Kittle and Debo. I mean, wow. What a full-grown man he is. But a lot of explosive plays on offense.
Yeah, and with the Debo play, that's all on him. It's like, okay, you can't really scheme that. It's like, okay, catch it.
Go be good.
And make everybody else miss you and run through arm tackles and score a touchdown. How about that? And we saw a lot of that last year with Debo, and it was really nice to see Debo doing it as a receiver and not just with the wide back stuff, because teams are catching on to the wide back, and it hasn't been as successful so far this year. He had 2 carries for 2 yards in this game, but the 6 catches for 115, the 57-yard touchdown was the one that was super fun to watch, and that's why Debo is always worth the price of admission. But yeah, enough chunk plays. One big run, which was a backbreaker, that big Debo play, and then a couple more here and there with Ayuk, and you mentioned Juszczyk. He's so good at sneaking a tight end or a fullback out to be uncovered. It happens so often in Kyle Shanahan offenses, and they got one there against the Rams on Monday Night Football as well. So really get-right game for the San Francisco 49ers on offense. They'd already been playing so well on defense, but it was nice to see the defense, because it was the monsoon in week 1. There was some rain and a bad Seahawks team in week 2, so you weren't sure. Then the Broncos really aren't playing at a super high level, and more on the Broncos in a second here, and they're not in a great spot, but it was like, okay, this is the Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. This is a better test for the 49ers defense, and they still look like one of the best units in the league. Cooper Kupp was just the entire offense. I know Tyler Higbee had 10 catches for 73 yards, but I didn't really feel like, oh, Tyler Higbee, another catch is breaking the 49ers back. It was all Cooper Kupp, and just forcing the ball, doing everything you can, and even 14 catches for 122. The line is great, but there was no back-breaking touchdown by him and no running game at all to speak of. I don't know what's going on with Cam Akers. He might have the worst start to a season that I can remember for a guy that you thought would be, potentially a league winner for your fantasy teams. He's averaging, I think it was 1.6 yards for this, but for the season, 8 carries for 13 yards, but for the season, he's under. He had negative yards in the first week, right? So he might be under 1.5 yards per carry on the season.
Wow. And that's very possible. I mean, look at this line. He's 8 for 13 with a long of 6. So those other 7 didn't do much of anything. That's what I was going to say about Kupp too. Hey, I love Kupp as much as the next guy. It's remarkable how open he is time and time again. But 33 targets for Kupp and Higbee, that seems like that's how it is like every week with these guys. You can't just have 2 weapons. And Higbee's not even much of a weapon. I mean, he's fine,
I did undersell Akers a little bit. He had that one good game against the Cardinals last week where he had 5.1 yards per carry, 12 carries for 61 yards, and he did have a touchdown. So, but aside from that,
good for him.
2 yard per carry guy. And
brutal.
Yeah, it's just it's really up front, which is the problem for the Rams. I think he nailed it there. The offensive line, that's not gonna get much better this year either for them. So maybe that is the Achilles heel. But at 2-2, 49ers 2-2, Cardinals, Seahawks, shotgun start. Everybody's 2-2, 13 more games. Let's see who can go win the West.
Yeah, I like the Niners' chances, but I mean, at home Monday night against that D line was walking into a buzzsaw for the Rams.
A lot of good matchups too with the NFC West and the AFC West playing each other this season. So, yeah, a lot to be decided there in the NFC West with the 49ers, with the Los Angeles Rams. You brought up one more note on this game. You brought up Allen Robinson, and this was was finally the season where Allen Robinson gets to play with a good quarterback. And is he just cooked? Is he done? That's what it seems like. There's no
synergy with him and Stafford at all.
They're not trying to get him the ball at all. He's not like clearly wide open all the time. They're just kind of throwing him a couple jump balls in the red zone, and that's about it.
Yeah, and the announcers are even talking about Odell and how excited he is to probably join this team again. Like, don't you have a guy who's pretty good that you just gave a bunch of money to? And I mean, I'm looking at his stat line because I own him in like every fantasy league because, frankly, and I'm not blaming Matt Harmon. He's one of my favorite analysts out there. Like Allen Robinson's reception perception stuff was really good last year. He's just on a dreadful team. And now he's just a ghost. I mean, 6 of the most nondescript targets that I can remember and catches 2 of them for 7 yards. That's how it is every week. Like he's unusable in fantasy. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Feel free to drop them. And when the announcers like that, they do a lot of work and talk to a lot of people throughout the week and have a lot of interviews.
Right.
When they start saying stuff like that, that's, Rams folks being like, yeah, well, hopefully we can get Odell because we're not getting anything from anybody but Cooper Kupp.
It's brutal, right? And Higbee seems like he just gets targets by default. I mean, and he gets a lot of them, but that's not the guy you want to funnel the offense through.
Right. Yeah, that should be the 4th, 5th option on the offense. Right now it's the 2nd, which is a bad sign for that Rams offense.
Yep.
Okay, next, let's talk a little bit about the Denver Broncos, who have stumbled to start their season at 2-2. They're not in a terrible place, but they just lost their franchise running back. Luckily, they do have some depth at that position. We'll talk about Javonte Williams, what it means for the Broncos, what it means for your fantasy rosters, maybe some other names out there of some running backs that could have big second halves of the season that could help out their respective teams and your fantasy football team as well. But first, I want to let the folks out there know about our next sponsor. That is something I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted to add some energy to my mornings, and I wanted some vitamins, and I didn't want to be taking vitamins all day, and I always forget to do stuff throughout the day, right? You got to take it with a meal and all of that. AG1 is so easy. The first thing you do, you put a scoop in a cup of water, and that is it, and you are done. And you have now set your entire day straight with 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals, whole food-sourced superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. So pretty much all of the things. And it's something that can give you energy because it's something your body needs, but it also helps you sleep better too, unlike something like caffeine, which might give you a jolt in the afternoon and then you're tossing and turning all night long. So there's really no reason not to take AG1, and it is lifestyle friendly as well. That digestion I talked about, the probiotics, you might be dairy free. So this is something that you can do without the benefits of yogurt and other things like that. It's keto friendly, paleo friendly, gluten free, vegan, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything in AG1. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NFL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thanks again, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen every day. Make sure you check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And by the way, on YouTube, the Locked On NFL channel is where you can find Peacock and Williamson as well. A little bit of a blow here for a running back that I drafted high in some fantasy leagues, someone that I expected to anchor my fantasy team, someone I expected to anchor the running game for the Denver Broncos this year. This was supposed to be the breakout year for Javonte Williams. And Matt, it's never going to happen. It was sort of a slow start for him. And now a torn ACL and LCL. He is done for the year. And hopefully he gets back in time for week 1 next year with a nasty knee injury like that. Javonte Williams, how important was he for the Broncos? And how do the Broncos even make up for this loss? Luckily, I mean, Melvin Gordon is somebody they brought back. And so you have some depth, but Mike Boone is there.
They picked up Latavius Murray yesterday, too.
Yeah, it was just a bummer of a season because I'm sure Javonte Williams coming to the year is like, yes, I am going to become an NFL superstar. And he's got all the talent, passing game, running game work. And poof, it's just gone like that. The season almost never got going because he didn't even have that breakout game at the beginning of the year either.
You hate that he tore both tendons. I mean, an ACL, you don't think twice about, okay, that, he'll be back in modern medicine. but both, it's like, I wonder if he'll ever be the same. Who knows? He's still young, obviously. Might be my favorite back in the league, to be very honest with you. I mean, I adore his running style. He's a good receiver. He's maybe, besides a guy like Chubb, it might be the hardest guy to get on the ground. And I was really critical of the Broncos up until his injury all year, saying, all your offensive struggles, give it to this guy. Maybe that's not what Russ wants to do, but the best thing for this team would have it run through Javonte Williams. And as most of you know, Ryan McDowell and I host Locked On Dynasty Football, and Dynasty's a lot about predicting the future. And a couple weeks ago, we did a show, who's your bet to be the number one running back in Dynasty 1 year from now? Who's going to be worth the most? And I said I want Javonte Williams, over Taylor, over anybody. That's how high I am on him. I figured Gordon would be out of the way by then. And this is a big, big blow to a team that is really struggling, just lost to an 0-3 team. Their running back, Josh Jacobs, really played well in that game. But even just look at the box score of that one, Melvin Gordon, 3 carries for 8 yards. This offense is very anemic. I like Gordon as a player, but boy, he has fumbled a lot this year. I wonder if they're losing trust in him. Boone is a hard-charging, quality guy. I assume him and Gordon will split carries, I'm guessing. But, for fantasy reasons, you pick up Murray, and now is it a 3-headed mess all of a sudden on a bad offense? And who's the receiver of the group? So I'm not, spending all my fab money to go pick up Boone or Murray.
Right. And I think there's some players on other teams that might be the place to put higher on your waiver claims than some of the leftovers there for the Denver Broncos. And it should be mostly Melvin Gordon there anyway. And he's probably already on somebody's roster as a backup. So if you already have Melvin Gordon, or if you had the handcuff there with Javonte Williams, you're probably feeling okay about Melvin Gordon. You know what kind of NFL player he is. But just really quick before we talk more about the running backs, going back to the Broncos, they've got one of the least impressive resumes of the 2-2 teams. There's a ton of 2-2 teams in the NFL right now. They lost to the Seahawks in the opener, 17-16. They only mustered 16.
That doesn't look quite as bad as it used to. I think Seattle might be better than terrible,
But but again,
still, they're backwards as could be.
Right. You're still in a mediocre zone there. You're like, okay, we're in the realm of mediocre teams, where you expect it to be a lot more than that if you're the Broncos. Week 2, they only mustered 16 points again against the Houston Texans, narrowly winning there. Even more narrow win, 11-10. Last week, Sunday night against the 49ers, looked terrible on offense, but we know the Niners do have a good defense. And then lost to the 0-3 Raiders in week 4. So I don't feel good. I felt great about them. I had the Broncos making the playoffs and Russell Wilson with an MVP-like season. Remember in our preseason predictions?
Oh, yeah.
By far my worst prediction so far. They still have an opportunity to make the playoffs, but man, I don't like anything I'm seeing, and I'm selling all my stock in the Denver Broncos, and I'm not excited about what I've seen from Russell Wilson, the new coaching staff. Really none of it. They, the defense I think is holding them together, but then the Raiders came in and scored 32 points against them in week 4. So I don't think the offense is doing enough to not put their defense in a bad place. They're very worried about the Denver Broncos after 4 weeks.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't want to say their coach has no chance to succeed, but he looks like he's in over his head through 4 weeks. That's for sure. Maybe that's starting to look a little better with all the offensive penalties and things of that nature. I wasn't doing jumping jacks when they made the Wilson trade anyway, to be honest with you. I mean, I think he's clearly a declining player. I'm not saying he stinks or, obviously he's better than what they've played with, but considering how you change your franchise and how much you have to give up of future assets and even just, bringing him in the building and just changing the whole environment, it's not going well. And I think they're really in a bad spot. I too had them as my 7 seed, I think, as a last wild card team. They have a good roster, but they're missing some stuff right now. I guess they could get it turned around, but not a lot of signs of that so far.
So aside from Melvin Gordon, there's some really good names at running back that I think people should be targeting, trying to trade for, maybe picking up on their waiver wire if you had Javonte Williams, or even if you didn't, and you're looking for some running back depth on your fantasy teams and some players that could be breakout players in the second, the second, third, and fourth quarter of the 2022 season. But first, really quick, Matt. So we talked about the AFC West here with the Broncos and the Raiders, and then the NFC West, everybody's at 2-2. If you had to pick, and not counting the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's the only team that's above 500 out of those 8 teams, the Kansas of both Western divisions, The Kansas City Chiefs are the only team that's above 500. I think we would say for sure that team's making the playoffs. You have to pick one playoff team from each of the Wests, aside from the Kansas City Chiefs. How are you feeling about the 2-2 Chargers, 2-2 Broncos, 1-3 Raiders, and all of the NFC West teams that are 2-2 right
now? You know me, I always think about the Steelers, the AFC North. And I think that those three divisions, if you include the AFC North, we looked at as they're the three best divisions in the league, probably led by both Western ones. And all three of those divisions, not to change the tune here, are all over the place. I'm not sure who's good and who's bad in any of them. And that's just how the league is right now. I'm dancing around your question a little bit because I really think the Eagles, Bills, and Chiefs, I know are really good. I don't know if the Chargers are, but they would clearly be my pick for the question. I guess your Niners would be on the list because I can't go with Arizona or Seattle, and we just saw San Francisco beat the Rams, so there's some recency bias there, but we talked about all the problems LA's having right now to start the show. Do I trust Brandon Staley, though? I think that's a legit question.
A big time recency bias because before Monday Night Football, I wouldn't have picked the Niners, but I liked what I saw there. The offense doing their job, and that's the 49ers team we've seen that's gone far in the playoffs a couple times in the last 3 seasons. So that was a really good sign for the 49ers. How about this, though? Only 2 teams in those 2 divisions have scored more points than they've given up. And it is
I was about to say that. I'm sitting here looking at that too. Like, that's unbelievable. Right. I mean, the Chiefs and Niners are the only ones with a positive point differential. It's crazy.
Pretty amazing there in the West. What's going on? There were supposed to be 2 powerhouse divisions, only 1 team above 500. I think there is still some good teams there, but they're going to have to figure some things out here. And as we know, the NFL season is always extremely unpredictable. And so I'm sure whatever happens next will be just as much of a shock as what we've seen the first 4 weeks of the season. Matt, next, let's talk running backs. Who are those players you should be targeting in your fantasy waiver wires next? And by the way, if you want to probably get some pretty good odds on some of those teams in the AFC or NFC West to win the Super Bowl, maybe better odds than when the season started, but you still believe, BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting and information this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every game you can find, because it's not just about making bets. You need the best information you can before you make those bets so you're able to make more money. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. Of course, football wagers throughout the season-long stuff, prop bets. They've got lines for week 5, of course, but they've got lines all the way through the end of the regular season that you can get a jump on. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events with Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, golf, NBA getting going as well. So get over to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So Melvin Gordon, obviously, his stock is way up right now with the Javonte Williams injury. He might be the bell cow for the Denver Broncos, although we've talked about how anemic the offense has been for them. Maybe they need to lean a little bit more on the running game, and that'll help Russ out, and that'll help that offense get right. But Cordero Patterson now coming down with an injury for the Atlanta Falcons, and I think Allgier, the rookie running back for the Atlanta Falcons, might be my number one waiver wire claim coming into week 5. How do you feel about the rookie there?
Yeah, me too. I mean, they are much more competitive than you would think, and it's all about the running game. I mean, they are 4th in the league in rushing yards, and they're able to stay with that script, which is impressive. They're not always playing from behind. They barely throw the ball, as us Kyle Pitts owners know. They want to, I mean, that guy, he's on the back of a milk carton, and some tight end I never heard of had more snaps than Pitts last week. So they want to just be big and bullies and remember that the coach comes from Tennessee. I mean, no one's Derrick Henry, but that's how they want to play football. And Allgier, to me, fits that mold pretty well. You know, I mean, Huntley's in that mix as well. Damian Williams is in that mix. Part of me thinks the way they play, and it's kind of like a Niner thing, that they're just going to beat the crap out of their backs, and, you know, they last 3 or 4 weeks, and then you get the next guy, and then they will last 3 or 4 weeks, and you get the next guy. But I do think Allgier is My favorite waiver wire claim, more than the Bronco guys, and will fit in well there. He kind of has that James Conner-like style.
Yeah, and he ripped off a nice little 42-yard run last week. He had started to be used. He had a couple games where he had 10 carries, so he was in the mix already. And, as a rookie, you feel better because he's got a month of regular season football under his belt now. And Cordero Patterson, it's not going to be a game-time decision where all of a sudden Cordero Patterson's the starter again and he's limping into the game. He's on IR, so at least he's going to be out for 4 weeks with his knee procedure. It doesn't look like it's going to keep him out for the entire year, but for the next 4 weeks, Tyler Allgier, the rookie running back for the Atlanta Falcons, becomes the starter. And I think I've seen enough from him, and I know that there's an urgency for the Atlanta Falcons to run the football there. I love that pickup, and potentially even a league winner if he runs away with the job. And here's what's crazy. I would probably rather roster Tyler Allgier for the next 4 weeks than Kyle Pitts on that offense.
I hear what you're saying. I own Pitts everywhere. He was my number one tight end. I remember we did that show, and a lot of people gave me blowback. How do you have him over Andrews and especially Kelsey? Well, I'm an idiot. I mean, they don't use him at all. One name I did want to throw out, though, in this conversation that is probably available in your leagues is Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know how much people watch the Chiefs game. I just think he looks much better than Edwards-Helaire, more of a traditional back. Edwards-Helaire's put up really good fantasy numbers, but I think it's kind of fluky. I mean, Pacheco's the better ball carrier, in my opinion. And there was all that preseason buzz about him, and I kind of brushed it off like, that's cute, but no, he's a really good player.
And Isaiah Pacheco's already surpassed Jerick McKinnon on the depth chart.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they want to give one guy all of the touches, which is why Allgeier would be the one to own in fantasy leagues. But it's probably a lot easier to pick up Isaiah Pacheco in your fantasy leagues. And I agree with you. Even though he's a second-round pick, I mean, he's got the athleticism. His playing style is great. He's clearly a better pure running back, I think, than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Could he potentially run away with the job himself and Helaire becomes sort of a third down back there? I think that's possible. And their touches were pretty even last week. So there is some evidence there that could be the case. So absolutely, that's a good name on the waiver wire to pick up. A couple more here. The Miami Dolphins have been really pass heavy. I think they were among the top, maybe even the top team in the league with throwing the ball on first down at the beginning of the season. But with Tua now sidelined and maybe them rethinking how they're going to do things on offense, I wonder if the running game, and look, this is the guy who was a run game coordinator under Kyle Shanahan as head coach now, and Mike McDaniel. I wonder if there might be a bigger opportunity for the running backs who haven't really been super valuable for the Miami Dolphins. And Raheem Mostert, who came into the year as not the starter, wasn't drafted in a lot of fantasy leagues. He's probably available in a lot of leagues out there as well. And I think he's clearly the better runner and the better fit there for that outside zone scheme because of how explosive he is. I think he might be someone that you could pick up that could have some big runs and some big games coming up in the very near future as well. So Raheem Mostert's another name to look out for in your waiver wire if you can't get some of the other guys.
Yeah, or buy low in a trade right now. I mean, you got to think that there are going to the running game is coming in Miami. I'm shocked it hasn't arrived yet, but we know where he comes from. You know better than anyone. I mean, that is coming. I was more of an Edmonds guy, and I never liked the fit. To your point, I mean, Mostert's much more of a Niner type guy, but Edmonds catches passes, and they gave him a lot of money. So I'm like, well, I guess they like him better. But
and there might be a lot of poaching happening there where Mostert runs away with the job, but then Edmonds comes in on third downs and then gets the touchdowns in short yardage goal line situations. So maybe neither one of them you're going to feel great about in the end, but if there's an injury to one or the other, that would help open things up for an every down type of a back. But it's just clear that if you're looking for upside, Mostert is more of the play than Edmonds because we kind of know who Edmonds is, but Mostert could be the big play, big run guy that really puts you up some big numbers, and he might just become the guy there at running back. When I'm watching the Dolphins, I came away thinking, well, Mostert's clearly the better running back.
I 100% agree, and better fit. Last note, I know we're up against it, but while we're talking Miami, unfortunately, Teddy Bridgewater is an option for you guys in fantasy leagues too. I mean, with those two receivers he's throwing to, who knows how long Tua is going to be out. You could do a lot worse on the waiver wire, and he's available. Guys like Goff might not.
Yeah, and it's nice to be a quarterback that can target guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and let them do all the work.
He does. Yeah, Teddy is a point guard. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Great stuff there. We are going to open up the Peacock and Williamson mailbag on Wednesday's episode. So get those questions in the YouTube comments or tag Matt on Twitter at Williamson NFL. Back tomorrow, right here, Peacock and Williamson.